I kind of developed a taste for doing episodes of The Simpsons that I dislike, so I'm gonna lay into an episode I really don't like. Well, okay, maybe it's better than Barbershop Quartet. Canine Mutiny is one of those episodes where you could tell the writers were starting to lose touch with what was established earlier in the series. The biggest issue with The Simpsons as a whole, and why it changed so drastically over the years, and why it seems to forget things, and they gaslight us into thinking pre-established character traits and events aren't important, is because of the show's constantly rotating staff of writers. It went from having writers who were genuinely trying to put some of the best comedic writing they could on television, to a bunch of writers that were just using the whole thing as a gig. Like, more and more as the show went on, original writers dropped off, and writers who seemed to have some sort of passion for the show just kinda went on to other things. This even extends to showrunners. You know, they come in, they're gung-ho to do it, and then it's like, oh, I'm gonna move on to do a different project. Al Jean did it with The Critic, Oakley and Weinstein did it with Mission Hill. Sadly, neither of those played out, even though I don't like The Critic, I'll get to that later. Episodes started to not really line up with characterizations or events established earlier on, and as a result, around the end of the golden years, seasons 8 or 9, the show became more and more off-brand until eventually it evolved into the Mike Scully era, where very little of what the show was remained. With that being said, my issues with the episode aren't so much the plot with the credit card. It is a bit over the top, but it's whatever, it's a cartoon. It's like, I always thought that Bart pulling out like raw unpackaged salmon from that box was pretty funny, but I never realized that he literally just gave his sister a bunch of amphetamines, and that's even funnier. And my issues lie with the way that Bart treats Santa's little helper. The credit card stuff is actually kind of funny. It's not like, you know, the greatest, but it's not bad. Like, my dad always laughs at the weird pinball game thing Bart plays. I just think that, as a concept, the episode is just mid. It's like the definition of like a mid-Simpsons episode. But I think the part I hate the most is Bart's attitude when he gets Laddie. He treats his dog like shit, and I know that's the point of the episode, to show, oh, you know, be thankful for what you got, whatever. But with all the pre-established lore that Bart literally went to insane lengths to keep his dog from getting given to another home by putting it through obedience school, and when he ran away, Bart went out to find him, it's just this, like, him doing this after all that, just it don't work. The episode really skimps on laugh out loud moments until about the final act. Like, the Millhouse line is one my friend and I quote fairly often.
Remember the time you ate my goldfish and you lied to me and said I never had any goldfish? But why'd I have the bowl, Bart? Why did I have the bowl?
And the boat gag makes me laugh, and then Homer trying to get Bart to eat dog food. It's like, okay, those aren't bad. Like, it has its funny moments. I like when Bart goes to Patty and Selma's because the repo guy said a guy in a dress bought the dog, and it's followed up with Selma having swallowed a Band-Aid.
I gotta go keep an eye on Selma. She thinks she swallowed a Band-Aid.
The last act is okay, but it's just not enough to save it. This episode kind of sucks. It's just a very dull experience from start to end. And now the conclusion, a blind man has the dog and Bart does a home invasion to get him back. And to cap off everything, the only thing that's like arguably more frustrating than Bart's characterization in this episode is the fact that it ends on a pot joke. So like, I don't really smoke weed. I smoke it like sometimes. I'm not like one of these daily users who can't function without it, and I don't find pot humor funny. There's like the very odd weed joke that actually makes me laugh, and when I look at this, I know there's some bum-ass loser who's like, oh yo, they made a pot joke, Mr. White, let's smoke pot. At this point, there's like those stoners that have just based their entire life, sense of humor, and personality around smoking weed and being high, and it's just like, that, oh god, it takes a lot for a pot joke to actually make me laugh, and Chief Wiggum and the cops partying to some haggard-ass Bob Marley ain't it. If you find this funny, I have some advice for you. Put the joint down and take a little tolerance break. And this is the problem with me doing episodes I don't like. Like, unless it's an episode I really hate, it's like, I'm coming down here, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna write about the Canine Mutiny. I really dislike this episode, it's boring. But then there's nothing I can really write about it. I can just say, oh, it's boring, it sucks, it's not funny. Like, this is gonna be one of my shortest Simpsons and Me videos ever, because it's like, oh, what do I have to say? It sucked. Okay, I can say one good thing about the writing of this episode, and this actually came up, like, much later than I reported the rest of it because I didn't really think it through, so that's on me. I can say it does capture how some families are with pets. Like how the whole family's like gung-ho to have this new great dog, and then as soon as they learn just how high maintenance the dog is, they're disinterested, they're trying to pawn the chores off on each other. And it just shows that a lot of people like the idea of having a really cool, good, high maintenance dog, but they don't like having to actually have have a cool high-maintenance dog. Something like Santa's Little Helper is much more suited to The Simpsons because, yeah, you gotta walk him, you gotta take him to the bathroom, but for the most part, Santa's Little Helper is just a house dog, whereas Laddie is like an elite super dog that needs like all this attention and walking and like food. And I've seen this before with people I know. They get like a new dog and they're like, oh, I got a German Shepherd, this is a great dog, and it's like they live in an apartment building, the dog's not really happy, they have to take the dog out for a walk, and dogs, you know, dogs are a lot harder to take care of than a cat. And some dogs have that personality where they just need like this high maintenance lifestyle that some people can't keep up with and they get sick of it. But in doing this, I actually think I got a little bit more material than I expected. And the material I got is that I consider this episode to be one of the contributing factors to me believing that season 8 of The Simpsons is the most overrated season in the series run. There was a point in time where many, including myself, would say season 8 was in that discussion for greatest of all time, but Canine Mutiny is just one of many very mid episodes that deadlocks it from ever being in that discussion for me. The episode is so manufactured, there's no heart or soul to be found in here, and rightfully so. I think by this point Oakley and Weinstein were getting ready to leave and do Mission Hill, so they probably were like, yeah, sure, fine, do it. When I look at this episode, it's like, it's bad, but I think the best way to describe it is it's just a joyless piece of shit. It's like one of those episodes where, say you're watching a rerun on TV and you're excited, you see the intro, you're like, yes, The Simpsons is on, and then you realize it's this episode and it just ruins your fun. It's like going to a friend's house as a kid and you're thirsty and you're like, oh, but do you have anything to drink? And they're like, yeah, we have some pop in the fridge, and they hand you a cream soda. I can't stand cream soda. It's just like, I know some people like it, but that shit sucks. What can I even give this one? Like a 4 out of 10, I guess, and that's being generous because it does have a few really funny jokes, but just as an episode, this one's for the birds. I think if they would have put forth the effort to make Bart just a little bit more sympathetic in his decision to literally give his loyal dog away, I might be able to go easier on it. And then like, you look at it, it's like nobody else in the episode really gets anything important to do, so all in all, it's just a pointless episode. It's just a pointless and lame episode. Anyway, what are your thoughts on Canine Mutiny? Like, subscribe. I'm done with this video. I'm gonna do an episode I like next time.
Well, crying isn't gonna bring him back, unless your tears smell like dog food. So you can either sit there crying and eating can after can of dog food until your tears smell enough like dog food to make your dog come back, or you can go out there and find your dog.
You're right. I'll do it.
Rats. You almost had him eating dog food.